What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another favorites video for you. So today's video is actually a much anticipated favorites. It is one that you guys have been requesting for several years now and I've been procrastinating doing it for a really long time, but today is finally the day that we are going to be talking about my favorite base coats and my favorite top coats. So this is one that I've always been a little hesitant to do because of two reasons. One, because my nail beds are a little oily, so they're not prone to staining. So even though the base coats that I use don't cause me any staining, other people might have a different experience. And then the other reason I was hesitant to make this video is because I tend to change my nails 2 to 3 times a week. So even though I would consider these top coats to be longer lasting, I still couldn't tell you the exact wear time of them because I don't wear them for that many days in a row. And also because, you know, the experience can differ from person to person. But I figured it was finally time to give you my recommendations for my go-to favorites. So the way I'm doing this video is I'm actually dividing it into 3 different categories. So we have the base coats, we have the nail strengtheners, and we have the top coats. And I'm going to give you my top 5 favorites in each category, and then I'm also going to tell you the size and the price of them just so you can see about how expensive they are comparatively with each other. And of course, this isn't an exhaustive list. Just because your favorite isn't on here doesn't mean that it's not good. These are just the ones that I always find myself grabbing for and the ones that I find myself recommending the most often, but there are some others that I enjoy using as well. So let's just go ahead and get started with the base coats. I'm not going to go in order of favorite here. I would say all of these are very good and I'm not ranking them, although I will say this number 1 is pretty much my favorite, and that is the Orly Bonder base coat. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably see that this is the base coat that I use in almost every review, and it's probably the one that I reach for the most often in general, just for my own manicures and for videos. One of the main reasons why I like it is because it does dry very fast. A lot of people focus more on the dry time of polishes, but I feel like the dry time of the base coat matters just as much to me, because that's just another coat of polish on your nail that you need to wait for to dry. And I would say out of all the ones I've ever used, the Bonder does dry the fastest. So it's definitely very convenient when I'm in a rush, especially if I'm wearing a 1-coater. I just have 1 coat of this, dries super fast, 1 coat of my polish, and then 1 coat of quick dry top coat. And I feel like it takes me so much faster than other brands. I also find that it lasts a really long time on me without any chipping. And one thing I really appreciate about it is that it is a very sticky base coat. So it really adheres to the nail very well, and it's also, because it's so sticky, it's very good for advanced nail art. So if you're doing any sort of reverse stamping, you can actually apply a coat of this over your color and the stamping design will come off of your stamper onto your nail because of this. I have a feeling it would also work really well for foils or for powders, but I've never tried that before. But yeah, it's just a very nice, very sticky base coat. It dries very fast and it doesn't really give me any chips or wear for a very long time. I also appreciate that the Orly bottles are super massive, so they really give you a lot of product for the price. It also has the grippy cap, which I think makes opening it really easy. There are some brands where once you get a little product on the lid, it's really hard to actually open the bottle, but I do not experience that with Orly ever. And it's also a mainstream brand, so it is more readily available. It comes in an 18 milliliter bottle. This retails for $13 on the Orly website, but I actually saw on Amazon right now it is for sale for under $10. So that comes out to around 55 cents per milliliter. So again, you get a lot for your money. And of course, I can't mention the Orly Bonder base without mentioning my giant refill bottle that I have. This was actually a gift from the Orly team because I've been using the Bonder for so long that they gave me this. I have refilled my bottle twice since I've gotten it, and honestly, I have barely made a dent in this. So very impressive. It'll last me forever. You can also see it's still very liquidy. It's not getting dried up or anything. I believe this is also available on Amazon, so if it is, I'll link it down below. Next up, we have another one that's probably familiar to you if you watch my review videos, and that is the Cuccio base coat. This is another go-to go-to for me. I actually haven't been using it as much recently, but it's still a very good base coat. This one I actually really enjoy because I find that it's a little bit thicker than some other base coats that I use. So if I'm using a polish that I find to be very thin, but I still want to feel like I have a full manicure on my nails, I think this is such a great option for that. It's another one that does dry pretty quickly, and I really like the brush of this one as well. It's kind of like a medium wide flat brush, and I also think it's at a great price point. This one is another mainstream brand, and I can find it at drugstores, on Amazon, from retailers. It's pretty readily available. So this one is 13 milliliters and it retails for around $8 USD. So that comes out to around 62 cents per milliliter. So again, very good price, very good product. So those two polishes are my favorites in terms of mainstream base coats. The next three are actually indie brands, and the first one is this Cirque base coat. It's called the Get Ready base coat. And this is just another one that I find really grips my nails very well, so it helps the polish adhere to them and it helps them last a really long time. And again, it is slightly on the thicker side, so I feel like it just adds a little extra something when I'm working with a thinner nail polish, so I definitely appreciate that. You know, sometimes I want my manicure to feel almost gel-like on my nails. I don't want it to feel super thin because then I feel like it's a little bit more prone to chipping. The one thing about this one to note is that it does cast a little bit of a blue tinge on my nails when I use it. Now, I don't think that actually makes much of a difference. I do tend to use this a lot when it comes to jellies, and I don't find that it affects the color of the jelly at all, but I figured it was something to note because it's a little funky. So this one is a little bit pricier. It comes in an 11 milliliter bottle and it retails for $12.50, which brings it to around $1.14 per milliliter. I do have a discount code with Cirque though, so I'll put it in the description. I'm gonna link all of these in the description if anybody's interested in them. Moving on, we have the next indie favorite base coat, and this one is from ILNP. This is called the Lockup Ultra Bonding Base Coat. Now, this is actually a newer release, but I very quickly fell in love with it just because I was really impressed with how it worked. It really adheres very nicely to the nails, and I've experienced very minimal, if any, chipping with this. It also does have that little bit of stickiness to it, so I feel like it's just very good at holding on to the nail polish, and it's probably good for stamping and all that sort of stuff. I also just think as far as indie brands go, ILNP is very affordable, so I really do appreciate that, and I think that this new bottle is so cute. It's like a little frosted bottle with a silver cap. I also really like the brush in this one. It is a wide flat brush, it has a rounded tip, and even though you don't have to be perfect when you're applying your base coat, the smoother the edges are of your base coat, the easier it's going to be to get your nail polish in that exact same spot. So it's very easy to work with this one because I really have to do minimal cleanup. So this one comes in a 12 milliliter bottle and it retails for $10 USD, which is around 83 cents per milliliter. And then we have the final favorite in terms of regular base coats, another indie one. This is from KB Shimmer, and this is their Fillin' Groovy Ridge Filling Base Coat. So this one is a little bit different because it is a ridge filler. Now, personally on my nails, I don't really have ridges, but I still really love this one, and I actually do recommend it for anybody who is looking for a ridge filling base coat. One thing I really appreciate about this is not only is it on a little bit of the thicker side so you can fill in any imperfections on your nail, but it also has a little bit of this blurring softness to it. You can see there's this little cream kind of color in there, and I love using this as a way to blur my visible nail line when I'm working with a somewhat sheer polish or when I'm working with a neon. I think this is the best way to get that sheer sort of look without showcasing any uneven lines in my nail or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this. KB Shimmer in general, I mean, talk about affordable. They are one of the least expensive indie brands I have ever come across, so I really love their nail care products for that. I believe they also do sell refill bottles that are super affordable. So once you grab a bottle of these, you are pretty much set. Again, this one does have the wide flat brush that has the rounded tip, so again, it's just really easy to make a nice smooth manicure where you don't have to do any cleanup. It comes in a 10 milliliter bottle and it retails for $6.50 USD, so it's around 43 cents per milliliter. So this one is, even though it's an indie brand, it is the cheapest out of my favorite base coats, so I think that's really impressive. They definitely make their products super affordable. Okay, so those were my top 5 favorite base coats, but I also have a separate category of different type of base coat, which is nail strengtheners. So technically these aren't exactly base coats. You can use them as a base coat. I use them as a base coat when I need a little bit of strengthening to my nails. But like I said, I am not prone to any staining. None of the base coats that I mentioned ever give me any staining. But again, that's in part because I do have pretty oily nail beds. So if you are prone to staining, but you still want to use a strengthener, the way I would recommend using it would be do a layer of your strengthener, do a layer of base coat, and then apply your polish, just so that you're doubly protected. But yeah, with that said, I have 3 favorite strengtheners, although one of the 3 actually has 3 different color options, which I am going to show you. So that makes a total of 5 favorites. So we'll start with the Dury Rejuvicoat. I use the Formula 2. I've talked about this a lot on my channel, and I absolutely love this strengthener. So if you're not familiar with nail strengtheners, it's basically what it sounds like. It helps strengthen your nail and kind of revitalize it. In my case, I find that Rejuvicoat specifically helps my nails get a little bit thicker. So especially in the winter time when I feel my nails getting a little bit thinner and a little bit more brittle, I always pull out my Rejuvicoat, and I feel like it just makes such a difference for me. Even though it does strengthen them, it doesn't make them brittle at all. They're still very pliable and movable. I know a lot of people do say that strengtheners make their nails a little bit brittle. I've never experienced that with any of my favorites. The difference between Formula 1 and Formula 2, Formula 2 is formaldehyde free. I've always just picked out Formula 2 anyway, just because, I don't know, I don't really want formaldehyde on my nails. So yeah, that's the one that I recommend, but they also have their Formula 1 with formaldehyde in it. This is another brand that I find at the drugstore a lot. It's very readily available. It's basically a mainstream brand. It comes in a 13 milliliter bottle, and it retails online for $13.99, which comes out at around $1.08 per milliliter. So you'll find that the nail strengtheners are a little bit more expensive, but they do more for your nails, so that's why. Then we have another classic, the OPI Nail Envy, and this is another one that I've talked about a lot on my channel. Very similar. It is a nail strengthener. They actually have a whole line of Nail Envy. They have versions that are in colors, which I think is really nice, but the classic Nail Envy is the one that I always find myself grabbing for, and I find that this formula works a little bit differently than Rejuvicoat on me. This specifically I find makes my nails grow really fast. So whenever I feel like my nails are just not in great shape and I want them to really just start growing out, I always pull out my Nail Envy, and it does actually make my nails grow faster. Maybe it's in my head, I don't know, but it does seem to make my nails grow faster. So that's really the main reason why I use it. I don't specifically find that it makes them healthier or thicker, but it really does help with the growth. So this one comes in a 15 milliliter bottle, and it retails for $17.99, which is a little bit expensive. Comes in at around $1.20 per milliliter. And then we have the third favorite, which is 3 different polishes, and that is the strengtheners from Dermalect. So they actually all have different names. I'm going to start with this one. It's called Transfixed, and this is a peptide infused nail restore base coat, and it's supposed to be anti-aging as well. But the reason why I love these ones, and I love all 3 of them for pretty much the same reason, and that is because they are both a nail treatment and they're also like a nude nail polish, but they're not too noticeable on the nails, so you can wear them and it kind of feels like your naked nails but better, and it also helps strengthen your nails at the same time. So the Transfix is the kind of beige nude cream color. Then we have the shade Camo Nude, and this one is another kind of beigey nude, but this one has a really beautiful blue shimmer running throughout. And then we have my favorite. This is Makeover, and this is actually like a really soft sheer pink, again, that has that blue shimmer running throughout. So it's a really nice way to kind of just help strengthen your nails and have just a little touch of color on your nails without it being too noticeable. And in general, I think that the Dermalect products are some of my favorite when it comes to nail and skincare. They do really take a lot of care into formulating these polishes and products that really do a lot for your skin and for your nails. So they are a little bit pricey, but I think they're honestly worth it. And again, you can wear them as a base coat, or you can wear them as just polishes on their own in 2 coats. And again, it has a similar effect as the KB Shimmer Ridge Filling Base, where it kind of just softens your visible nail line a little bit. So if you wear it under a sheer nail polish, it actually works really well for that. So these ones do come in at the most expensive cost per milliliter. They are 12 milliliters each, and they retail for $18 USD, which comes to $1.50 per milliliter. So yeah, those are my 3 go-to nail strengtheners. Again, I personally like to use them as base coats, but if you are prone to staining, you might want to double up, and I would always recommend doing the strengthener first and then the base coat. So now let's move on to what is potentially the most exciting part of the video, which is my top 5 favorite top coats. Now, all of these top coats I would consider to be quick dry top coats. Personally, I don't even really use any top coats that aren't quick drying. If you're not using a quick dry top coat, it's pretty much just regular clear nail polish. So here's a little quick tip if you're not too familiar with how top coat works. Your nail polish itself, if you don't wear a top coat, you're probably one of those people who's like, my nail polish never dries. I could sit out for hours, and then when I go to bed at night, I wake up in the morning and I have creases from my pillow, from my sheets, all that stuff on my nails. And the reason for that is that quick dry top coat is the thing that will cure all of the layers of your nail polish. Personally, I never wear a manicure without top coat. Even in the case of polishes like the Orly breathable line, that's a one-step system, I don't use a base coat with those, but I always use a top coat just because it is the thing that makes my nail polish dry. The only time I don't use a top coat is if I'm wearing a matte or textured polish, but even then, sometimes I'll just pop on a top coat and then maybe a layer of matte top coat over it, just because otherwise it'll take literally forever to dry. So like I said, these are my top 5, and with all of them, I experience 0 shrinkage. Shrinkage is probably a word that you've heard thrown around in the nail polish world, and basically what that means is you've got your nail polish on, you paint your layer of top coat, and then you notice as the top coat dries, it starts to shrink down a little bit and pull the polish away from the edge of your nails, and it'll either create a really funky kind of line where you have some polish but it looks like it's pulling away, or it'll look like your manicure you just didn't paint all the way on because it pulled all of those layers down. Now, that is definitely common when it comes to quick dry top coats, but like I said, I have found a bunch that I don't experience any shrinkage with, so let me share them with you. So we'll start off with probably my recent go-to, and that is the Orly Shining Armor Longwear Top Coat. Oh my gosh, this stuff dries so fast. It's absolutely wild. Honestly, I could paint my nail with this and then less than a minute later, I can touch that nail without smudging it. Of course, it still needs a little bit more time to fully cure and dry, but yeah, incredibly impressive. Don't be fooled by the fact that it is an opaque bottle. It does dry by air. It's just a regular polished top coat. But yeah, it dries incredibly fast. It does have a really intense smell to it. I actually think it smells really good, but if you're sensitive to smells, you might not like it. By the way, don't ever smell your nail polish. I'm just doing this for research purposes. I don't know, there's like something almost perfumey about it. Like it just smells very fresh, but it also smells very nail polishy. I don't know how to describe it, but it is a little bit of a strong smell, but I think it smells so good. But yeah, I use this all the time, especially when I'm in a hurry. I think this is so incredibly good for how fast it dries. You know, even if a polish isn't completely dry, like you could still dent it if you smashed your hand into something. It's really important to have something like dry to the touch when you're in a hurry, and this is just my go-to for that. It's not as thin as some other quick dry top coats I've used. The one that I'm thinking of is the Cuccio 7-second reactive top coat. Before this, that was probably my go-to if I was really in a hurry, but I found that that one is super thin, so it doesn't really give that finished manicure look on the nails. This one absolutely does. It really does smooth everything out into one layer as well, while also drying super fast. So again, this is a mainstream brand. It's 18 milliliters. Again, super huge. It has that rubberized cap, so it's really easy to open and close, and it retails for $11 USD, so it's about 61 cents per milliliter. Next up, we have an indie favorite, and that is the Cirque top coat. This is just one of those top coats that feels gel-like on the nail. It just gives you such a glossy, thick shine on your nails that I think it is just so perfect for finishing a manicure. Again, it does dry relatively fast, but it doesn't shrink down your nail at all. And I think it's also really good for nail art art specifically, just because it's so thick that you can actually float the brush on your nail without dragging down your design at all, and it still applies super smooth. It's also very self-leveling, so I do definitely appreciate that. So again, a little bit pricey. This one is 11 milliliters and it costs $12.50 USD, so that puts it around $1.14 per milliliter. Moving on, we have another indie one. This is the ILNP Glass Candy Ultra Glossy Top Coat. And now that I'm saying it, I'm realizing that a lot of my base coat and top coat favorites are the same. Not all of them, I promise. And I also do want to quickly note that you do not need to match your base coat and top coat brand. So I can use my Orly base coat and my ILNP top coat, or I can use my ILNP base coat and my Cirque top coat. You don't have to have them matching each other in order for them to work really well. I don't think it has any effect on them at all. But yeah, this is another relatively new one, but I immediately fell in love with the formula of it. Again, it's this nice thick top coat, so you can float your brush on it over nail art. It gives a nice, really glossy finish, and even though it's a little bit thick, as it dries, it actually levels out pretty nicely. So even if you apply it kind of sloppily, which I can sometimes do when it comes to top coat, it does even out very easily, and I just think that's very impressive. And again, I just think it's a cute bottle, and I really appreciate ILNP diving into the nail care products. I'm hoping that they do more because I think they've been doing a really good job of them so far. So this one again comes in a 12 milliliter bottle. We've got the wide flat brush with the rounded tip. Retails for $10 USD, which comes out to around 83 cents per milliliter. Next, we have one of my original favorite top coats of all time, and that is the KB Shimmer Clearly on Top Quick Dry Top Coat. When I first got into nail polish, this was the one that I always purchased, and again, they do sell the refill bottles for even cheaper, but this one is just so good. Again, same features pretty much. It's got that nice gel-like finish. It's super high gloss. It's very self-leveling. It doesn't cause any shrinkage at all. But I would say the number one quality of this, in addition to all of those other qualities, is just how incredibly inexpensive it is. So even when I was first getting into nail polish, it was cheaper for me to buy this indie brand than it was to go to the store and buy a bottle of top coat for the same value of product, because getting this level of quality for this price is honestly unheard of. I honestly don't know how they do it, but they never cease to impress me. Definitely one of my original favorites and one of my favorites of all time, and I'll never stop using it because it's very good. So this one is 15 milliliters and it retails for $6.50. So again, that is 43 cents per milliliter, so super inexpensive. And then the final favorite top coat is actually relatively new. I got it in the last few years, but I've been a very big fan of it. This is the Sèche Vive Instant Gel Effect Top Coat. And this is actually a drugstore brand. So when I was first getting into drugstore brands, there was a product called Sèche Vite, and it was slightly different. It was the same brand, but it came in a clear bottle, and I feel like that was kind of everyone's go-to quick dry top coat for a while, but that was one of the brands that caused so much shrinkage on the nail that the only way to get around that was to absolutely flood your nail with the product and then clean it off. During 2020, I was doing a lot of nail art live streams, and a bunch of my followers recommended that I try Sèche Vive instead. It does come in this blue bottle, which is opaque, but again, it is a regular nail polish that dries by air. It's not a gel, it doesn't need a lamp, and this is basically everything that was good about Sèche Vive, except for that it doesn't have any shrinking. So if you are looking for a good quality drugstore option, I would say Sèche Vive is the one to grab. Again, it's got that nice gel-like effect to it. It dries really nice and fast, and honestly, it lasts a really long time on me, so I definitely appreciate it. So this one comes in a 14 milliliter bottle. The price can vary based on where you get it. It retails for $8.27 on Amazon, so that brings it to around 59 cents per milliliter. So yeah, I feel like this was kind of a long video, but hopefully you found it helpful. These are all of my go-to base and top coats. Like I said, there are actually a lot of brands that I really use and enjoy, but when it comes to recommendations for what I think think is the best of the best. These are the ones that I always recommend. Looking at them now, I honestly didn't realize that I have so many overlapping favorites, like the Orly base coat and the Orly top coat, the Cirque base coat and the Cirque top coat, the ILNP base coat and the ILNP top coat. A lot of overlapping ones, but I think that's just proof that when a brand makes good quality nail care products, they're just making good quality everything nail care. And of course, these happen to be some of my favorite brands in general, so it makes sense. But again, just a reminder, you do not need to match your base coat and your top coat. You can mix and match those, and you also don't need to wear the same brand of base and top coat as you have of your regular nail polish. So I can use my Orly base coat with my Cirque nail polishes, and then I can use my ILNP top coat on top of that. You don't need to match anything. It'll still work very well. But again, these are all just my personal experiences with these products. Some might work better for people than others, and I don't really wear my nail polish for that long, so I'm not really prone to staining, and I'm not really prone to any chipping either. But yeah, I would love to hear what your favorites are, so you can let me know in the comments if we share any favorites, or if you have any favorites that you recommend I check out. Leave it all in the comments. We can chat about it. And if you enjoyed this video, or if you enjoy my favorites videos in general, please give this one a thumbs up. It really helps me out and lets me know I'm doing a good job. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now. And a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Rocket Man's daughter, Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Courtney. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter The Deadliest Pants. And The Deadliest Pants wants to know, what do you think about Star Wars now that you've seen it and done your podcast? Would you watch it again or look for other movies or shows within the fandom? So if you didn't know, I do have a podcast with my bestie Leah. It's called It's All Geek to Me. And it is basically a podcast where I am watching all of the franchises that I have not experienced. Our first season, we did the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was a lot of fun. But our most recent season, which season 2, we did the Star Wars franchise, which is a whole lot, and I've always been very intimidated by it, but I've always wanted to watch them. By the way, it is on YouTube now. If you want to listen to the podcast, I will link it up in the cards. But yeah, now I have fully watched all of the Skywalker saga, and I've also watched the Solo movie and Rogue One, and I can safely say I am 100% into Star Wars. I absolutely love it. Not only that, but I am currently in the process of rewatching the Skywalker saga with my partner Ryan, just because I wanted him to experience it with me too, so we are just slowly making our way through that. Every weekend we watch another movie. And then on the side, I am also watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi limited series, and I'm watching The Mandalorian. So yeah, I will definitely be watching other shows and movies from this world. Very excited to hear that they are continuing to make more, although I will say I think the prequel trilogy is the best, and I feel like that's when the franchise really peaked. But yeah, I definitely love it. I'm definitely as we keep on calling it in the podcast, a Star Wart, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm a little sad that it took me so long to get into it, but now that I am, I'm never going back. But yeah, that is it. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.